Hi there, my name is Jim, and I would like to thank you for purchasing our Children Learning Reading program, and also congratulate you on taking the most important first step in bringing your child into the wonderful world of reading. Like you, one very important focus of my life is the education and development of my children. Through a lot of learning, research, and some trial and error, we have successfully taught our children to read at the ages of 2 and 3. Our program is very simple to follow, and with a lot of patience, you will be able to teach your child to read, spending just several minutes each day. I can tell you right now that on a typical day, we spend just 3 to 7 minutes teaching our children to read. And no, I'm not exaggerating. All it takes is just a few minutes each day. Young children have a very short attention span, and spending a long time on one thing simply does not work with them, which is why our program works so well, because all it takes is just several minutes. All that you need is patience, patience, and more patience. And equally important, you need to be consistent with your schedule to take several minutes of your day to spend teaching your child. So let's spend a little bit of time and talk about our program. Our program is based on phonics, which is a method for teaching people how to read and write English. The basis of phonics involves teaching someone how to connect the sounds of English to sound out written text. For example, blending. One of the central aspects of our program is helping your child develop phonemic awareness, which is the ability to hear, identify, and work with phonemes or individual sounds. For example, the word bus has 3 phonemes, or 3 distinct sounds, which are b, a, s. Because of phonemic awareness, we're able to sound out each of these 3 sounds and blend them together to say the word bus. However, young children are not born with this ability, and helping your children develop phonemic awareness is one of the central goals of our program. Our program is based on the phonics method. However, it is modified to suit practical needs and also greatly simplified that would allow any parent to teach their child to read. Our program is designed to be simple and straightforward, and it is designed to be presented to your child in step-by-step lessons that will help them build a solid foundation in decoding and reading printed text. More importantly, being busy parents ourselves, we understand the time constraints imposed on many parents, and therefore designed our program such that very little time commitment is required to teach your child to read. So, why phonemic awareness? Why is it so important? And what about phonics versus the whole language approach to teaching reading? The issue of phonics versus whole language method is a debate that's over 100 years old, and you don't need to ask me on what I think is a truly effective method. Is our education system broken? Why is it that 38% of grade 4 students can't even achieve the lowest basic level of reading proficiency? This was a finding from the National Assessment of Educational Progress. In the US, there are currently over 30 million adults that are considered functionally illiterate, who are unable to perform simple, everyday literacy activities. The problem with the whole language approach of learning to read is that it becomes very difficult to read by memorizing and recognizing shapes, much like learning to read Chinese. Can you imagine forcing your child to memorize hundreds and even thousands of words? Luckily, that's not what our program is about. Studies have confirmed repeatedly that teaching phonemic awareness skills produces superior reading and spelling abilities than whole language teaching methods. Thousands of studies have confirmed this, and even the National Reading Panel has made a clear statement where they said, teaching phonemic awareness to children significantly improves their reading more than instruction that lacks any attention to phonemic awareness. So, how do you teach phonemic awareness to your child and teach your child to read? Well, you certainly could try the whole language method and have your child try to memorize hundreds of words. But I don't really think that's the ideal way to learn to read. After all, how can a child figure out what word is without learning how to decode written text? Right? Sure, some in favor of the whole language method will argue that a child can learn to read words in the context of the sentence it appears in. However, this is why you often see poor readers adding words that aren't there and leave out words that are actually there, and mistakenly read a word as another word that may have similar meanings. No, this is not the kind of reading that we want to teach your child. Our goal is to teach your child to become exceptionally fluent and efficient readers that are able to quickly decode printed text and understand its meaning. Okay, so it should be clear now that our program is not a whole language learning method. Instead, our program allows a very logical and a sequential order in teaching your child to read. We start off teaching a few alphabet letter names and letter sounds to your child. Your child is then taught to develop an automatic association between the letter names and the letter sounds. For example, the letter A makes the A sound. So when your child looks at the letter A, he or she will instantly recognize that they are looking at the letter A, which makes the A sound. Makes sense, right? To learn to read, you first teach the most basic elements. After teaching several alphabet letter names and sounds to your child, a great amount of emphasis is placed on learning to blend. Blending sounds together to form words. For example, the sounds k, a, t blends together to make the word cat. This is the first time I mention this here, but you will see it re-emphasized throughout our program. When you teach your child to read and sound out a word, use your finger and point directly below each letter you are sounding out. And after sounding out all the letters, say the complete word at normal speed, and at the same time swipe your finger across the bottom of the word. Using the word cat here, first let's point to C and say k, and then point to A and we say a, and then finally you point to T and say t, and then what you get is k, a, t. After this, what you do is you swipe your finger across the bottom of the word and say cat at normal speed. This is very important. You always want to say the complete word after sounding it out. You do not want to leave an impression with your child that each word is simply made up of sounds. Rather, you want to consistently reinforce with your child that each word is made up of sounds that blend together to form the word. This is very important. The next step is teaching your child to read sentences. Our program is designed such that we help your child to build a solid foundation in reading. Very simple sentences are slowly introduced in the letter, names, and sounds and words that your child has learned. After sentences come simple stories and rhymes. Within our program, there are stories and rhymes that are provided with many of the lessons. These make good use of the reading knowledge your child has acquired up to that point, with an emphasis on the material being taught in that particular lesson. As you can see, our program follows a very logical and sequential order in teaching your child to read, working your way up from letter names and sounds to sounding out words to reading sentences, and eventually reading stories and rhymes. As you progress through the lesson with your child will develop an automatic reflex of decoding printed text. They will automatically associate sounds to letters. They blend the sounds to sound out the words and connect the words to read sentences. Throughout this entire process, your child will be able to develop exceptional speed and accuracy in reading and writing. Okay, so let's get it into a little detail about our actual program, the actual process of teaching our lessons to your child. Our program involves two stages of learning. Stage 1 contains 28 lessons, and Stage 2 contains 22 lessons. So in total there are 50 lessons. Obviously we want to start with Lesson 1 from Stage 1 And I just want to point out here that it is extremely important not to skip any lessons, because our lessons are designed such that each new lesson builds upon all the previous ones, which provides a lot of opportunity for your child to practice new material and at the same time review previously learned material. Anyways, stage 1 of our program deals mostly with learning individual alphabet names and letter sounds. Here you will teach your child 21 of the 26 alphabet letters. The 5 letters not covered here will be taught in stage 2. These letters are Q, V, W, Y, and Z or Z. Lesson 25 in stage 1 is a key lesson that I want to highlight briefly here. In our program, we start teaching children to read using capital letters, and then we transition over to lowercase letters, and this transition happens in lesson 25. With our program, your child learns to read both capital and lowercase letters. In stage 2 of our program, other than the 5 remaining alphabet letters, we focus on teaching digraphs to your child. A digraph is a pair of letters that is used to represent one phoneme or one distinct sound. These sounds cannot be expressed by using just one single letter. For example, C and H makes the ch sound, and double O makes the oo sound. Both stage 1 and stage 2 involve learning new letter sounds, new words, sentences, short stories, and also rhymes. Although you can be sure that stage 2 reading is more advanced. Okay, here I want to highlight some key areas which I think are very important and I wanted to bring to your attention. First of all, to be able to teach your child to sound out the letters and read, you will have to learn the letter sounds yourself. With our premium package, we include the audio clips for sounding out each of the alphabet letters. You don't have to learn them all at once. However, I do suggest that you learn the sound of the letters for each of the lessons you will be teaching your child, so that you can teach the proper sounding of the letters. I know this may sound unnecessary or even silly, but you need to teach and remind your child from time to time that we always read from left to right. This may seem like such a simple concept, but you need to keep in mind that we're not born knowing which direction to read. When you teach your child letters and the letter sounds, it is very important that you teach both the letter name and sound at the same time. For example, if you were teaching the letter A, you will say to your child something along these lines. The letter A makes the A sound. There is scientific research that have determined that it's most effective to teach letter names and sounds together at the same time. For example, in a study done at the Ohio State University, the researchers found that children who receive letter name and sound instructions are most likely to learn the sounds of letters. When teaching your child to read, always point to where you are reading. As I've mentioned earlier, one of the most important aspects of learning to read is the concept of blending, where you blend the sounds of letters together to sound out the words. Here, if you look at the chart on the right side, you'll see the word bus written 4 times with arrows below it. This is how you should teach your child to sound out each word. Taking bus as an example here, you first point under the letter B and say B, and then you point under U and say A, and then finally you point under S and say S. After you sound out each letter clearly, you swipe your finger across the entire word and say the complete word bus at normal speed. So it goes something like this. B, A, S, bus. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the lessons. I'm not going to go in details about every single one of the 50 lessons that we have. Before you teach each lesson to your child, please get familiar with the lesson ahead of time. Learn the sound yourself, so basically get a good handle on the material before teaching it to your children. And this is a quick and simple task since each lesson is not difficult. And with a premium version, you have all the lesson printouts prepared for you. So all you really need to do is print out the material for each lesson, and then you can find these in a book titled Stage 1 Lesson Printouts and Stage 2 Lesson Printouts. Now, for the lesson printouts, the Stage 1 printouts are set up so that they can be printed on blank business cards. But if you really just want to print them on plain 8.5 by 11 white paper, that will be fine as well. And the Stage 2 printouts are designed to be printed on just regular 8.5 by 11 white paper. The first few lessons of our program are very simple, or at least they will appear extremely simple to adults. But these first few lessons are very important in getting your child to start learning reading. One of the most important goals for the first few lessons is to help your child develop phonemic awareness, primarily dealing with blending. Now, not all children will develop phonemic awareness at the same rate, and age and maturity will also play an important factor. For example, a 5 or 6-year-old child will grasp the blending concept fairly easily compared to a 2 or 3-year-old child. Some children might catch on to this blending concept where the letter sounds of b, a, s blends to say bus very quickly, or almost right away for some, while other children can take much longer to grasp this concept. When we started teaching our daughter to read, when she was just a little over 2.5, we spent many days on the first few lessons, and I think it probably took almost 2 weeks before she actually started catching on to the concept of blending. We really can't remember when it happened, but when it happened, it just seems like something clicked and she just got it. So my advice here is that be very, very patient with your child, especially if your child is young, such as 2 or 3-year-olds, and never scold your child for progressing slowly. Patience is very important. The last thing you want to do is make your child feel that reading is an unpleasant event that they do not like. The first 4 lessons start with the first 3 letters of the alphabet A, B, and C. Lesson 1 teaches the letter A and its A sound. Lesson 2 teaches the letter B and the B sound. Lesson 3 combines what your child has learned in Lesson 1 and 2 to practice some very basic blending. AB, ab, and BA, ba. Lesson 4 teaches C and the K sound, and also the word cab. When you teach your child the letters, make sure to have the lesson printout ready. Point to the letter A and tell your child that this is the letter A, and the letter A makes the A sound. Ask your child to say the A sound for letter A. Next, take your finger and trace the letter A, and with each stroke, say the A sound. And when you finish, you will have traced the line 3 times that makes up the capital A letter, and also have said the A sound 3 times. Ask your child to do the same thing that you just did for each letter A, B, and C. These beginning lessons are generally very easy and very short, and you can probably do a complete lesson in under 2 minutes. So my recommendation is to repeat it several times each day with your child. Consistent practice and reinforcement is very important. Okay, the first 4 lessons of our program started with the first 3 alphabet letters, A, B, and C. But throughout our program, we do not teach all of the alphabet letters in alphabetic order. The letter T is taught in Lesson 5, letter U is taught in Lesson 9, S in Lesson 10, and P in Lesson 11. You'll see that each of our lessons builds upon the previously learned material so that there's plenty of practice for the new material. And at the same time, the previously learned material gets reviewed. Also, Lesson 8 is a review that reviews all of the previously learned material. The lessons are set up in a step-by-step teaching process where you start each lesson by introducing the new letter name and letter sound to your child. Get them to familiarize with a new letter, and then move on to the words which contains the new letter and the previously learned material. After the word exercises, you then move on to short sentences, which uses words that your child has just learned. Certain lessons will also contain either short stories, rhymes, or both, and these also include plenty of fun and practice for your child to reinforce the new material they just learned. Lesson 12 takes a slightly different path, where we teach your child to learn the sight word the. A sight word is a word that you automatically know simply by looking at the word without trying to decode it and sound it out. You can refer to the bonus book in your program titled The Most Common Sight Words so that you can learn more about sight words. I think that by the time you're about halfway through our stage 1 lessons, things should be going pretty smoothly, and you should see some excellent reading progress in your child. From here on, the alphabet letters are presented in the following order. In lesson 13, you're going to teach your child the letter O. The letter H is taught in lesson 14, N in lesson 15, and lesson 16 is then a review of the first 10 alphabet letters that your child has just learned, which are A, B, C, T, U, S, P, O, H, and N. This review also reviews many of the words which can be formed from these letters. Continuing, G is taught in lesson 17, D in lesson 18, I in lesson 19, F in lesson 20, R in lesson 21, and M in lesson 22, and E in lesson 23. In lesson 24, it's set up slightly different, where the letters J and K are introduced to your child, and also the letter combination C and K. This is done because both K and CK both make the same K sound, and your child already knows the letter C and the K sound. So learning K and CK as the K sound should be very easy here. In lesson 25, we make the switch from capital letters to lowercase letters. As mentioned earlier with our program, your child will become a fluent reader of both capital and lowercase letters. This transition from capital to lowercase letters should not be too difficult, since only about 10 or 11 of the letters in the alphabet have significant differences between the upper and lowercase letters. Most of the other letters, there's barely any difference. We start this transition by having your child first read the words that they already know written in all capital letters, and then we ask them to read the same words that is written in lowercase letters. We do this through word pairs and also through sentence pairs. In the lessons and lesson printouts, you will find the word pairs and sentence pairs where the same words and sentences are written in capital letters and then again in lowercase letters. Your child first reads the uppercase words, and they read the uppercase sentences, and then after that they will read the lowercase words and lowercase sentences. With this pairing method, your child should be able to quickly develop a pretty good ability to read lowercase letters, and from this point on, the remaining lessons will be presented using lowercase letters and with uppercase letters where appropriate. The letter L is taught in lesson 26, and the letter combo TH, which makes the sound, is taught in lesson 20, number 7. And finally, X is taught in lesson number 28 of stage 1, and from here on you can move on to stage 2 lessons. By this time, I think that you will be very surprised sometimes with your child's ability to decode, read, and comprehend written text. Thanks to your patience and hard work, your child will have now developed a pretty high level of phonemic awareness. Okay, so after you've taken some time with your child and completed all the lessons in stage 1, you can now start with lessons in stage 2. The stage 2 lessons follow a similar teaching style as stage 1. However, the main difference here is that stage 2 will teach the remaining 5 alphabet letters, Q, V, W, Y, and Z, and the lessons here focus more on digraphs. A digraph is a pair of characters that are used to represent one phoneme. In other words, a digraph is one distinct sound that must be represented by a combination of two letters, because this particular sound cannot be expressed by any one single character. For example, the letters C and H put together makes the ch sound, and the letters S and H together makes the sh sound. One important thing I want to point out here about teaching digraphs to your child is that you need to be very specific when teaching digraphs to your child in each of the lessons. For example, let's say you're teaching your child the S and H sound. So you would say to your child something along these lines. The letter S and H makes a sh sound. Your goal here is to help make your child become aware of the fact that when the letters S and H are combined together, they make the sh sound, instead of trying to sound it out as s and h sound individually. This is very important. Okay, going on with the lessons. The first lesson starts off with A and R, which makes the R sound. For example, words such as arm, card, and smart all contain the R sound. The lessons in Stage 2 are set up just like the ones in Stage 1, where you will find step-by-step guidelines for presenting the lessons to your child. As well, don't forget to make good use of the lesson printouts that is set up for all the lessons in Stage 2. And don't forget to use the lesson stories and rhymes that are made to give your child extra practice with the newly learned material. Lesson 2 teaches the SH sh sound and introduces new words such as dish, fish, ship, shop, shark, and finish. Lesson 3 focuses on the E sound, the letters EE, EA, and Y. They all make the same E sound. This lesson is a little bit long, so I would suggest that you spend a little extra time on this lesson with your child. When teaching this lesson, you need to make sure to explain to your child that the letters EE, EA, and the letter Y all can make the same E sound. You may choose to teach each of these one step at a time. For example, you can start with a double E, which makes the E sound, and then afterwards you can move on to the EA, which also makes the E sound, and then finally onto the letter Y, which also makes the E sound. Some sample double E words include be, see, seek, and feed. And EA words include ear, deer, east, and jeans. And letter Y words include yes, funny, silly, and yam. The lessons contain many more words than listed here. 3-letter pairs are taught in Lesson 4, and they all make the sound. These letter pairs are E and R, I and R, and U and R, and they all make the same sound. Although spelled differently, they all make the same sound. ER words include her, better, sister. IR words include dirt, firm, and first. And UR words include fur, hurt, and surf. Lesson 5 teaches ing and on, which are spelled ing and ong. When teaching your child the ing and on sounds, you may need to explain to them that the ending G here is silent, because you may find that your child will try to sound out the G in the ending to make it sound like ing or ong. So you need to make sure that they sound it out as ing and ong. Lesson 6 teaches the letter Q and also QU, both of which make the same ku sound. For example, ku ing, queen, ku it, quit, ku question. And lesson 7 teaches the letter W and also the letter combination WH. Both of these also make the same oo sound. Now it says it's very important to distinguish the oo sound made by the W sound and the double O sound. If you pay attention, you'll find that the oo sound from W comes from lower within your throat area, whereas the oo sound from double O comes from higher up within the mouth. Try this. Say the words win and boot slowly. So you have oo, and then b, oot. If you pay attention where oo sounds are coming from, you'll see that the WOO sound comes from lower within your throat, while the double O sound comes up higher within your mouth. Lesson 8 teaches the letter Z or Z, and then lesson 9 teaches the CH ch sound. Lesson 10 teaches the letter combos O and W and O and U, which are taught as the owl sound here. Owl words here include how, now, and cow. And OU words here include house, mouse, and shout. Lesson 11 teaches the OR sound, and the letter V is introduced to your child in lesson number 12. Lesson number 13 teaches the letter combo T, H again. However, here the T and H does not make the same the sound as that was taught in lesson 27 from stage 1, which included words such as the, that, this, and then. Here in stage 2, we reintroduce the letter combinations T and H to your child, but instead, the sound made by T and H here is actually th, as in with, bath, thank, and think. Going on to lesson number 14, it teaches the double O sound, which makes the oo sound, and also the E and W sound, which makes U sound, in words such as new, chew, and few. Lesson 15 teaches AI and AY, both of which make the same sound as the letter A. Sample words include aid, rain, mail, may, day, and stay. Lesson number 16 teaches OI and OY, which both makes the OI sound. For example, soy, oil, boil, joy, and toy. AW and AU are taught in lesson number 17, which make the aw sound, such as law, claw, jaw, August, and auction. Lesson number 18 teaches a silent E to your child. Now here, silent E is a writing convention where a E at the end of the word makes the preceding vowel sound like their letter names. For example, in words such as bike, the silent E makes the vowel I sound like I. Our goal here is to help your child learn this concept and understand that a letter E at the end of words makes the preceding vowel sound a certain way. Lesson 19 teaches a soft C, CE, and CI, all of which makes a S sound. For example, city, pencil, ace, face, and balance. Lesson number 20 teaches a three-letter combination of IGH. And lesson 21 teaches the letter combinations OL, OA, and OW, which make the O sound. For example, OL in words such as cold and wolf, OA in words such as boat and coat, and OW in words such as row and snow. And finally, in the last lesson, lesson number 22, we teach the letter combination P and H, which makes the same F sound. Okay, so we've gone through the basics of everything involved with our children learning reading program. What I hope to accomplish was to give you a good overview of the entire program. But when it comes to teaching your child to read, please read the complete books for Stage 1 and Stage 2. These contain everything that you need to help your child become a successful reader. So to quickly sum things up here, let's just take a quick look at everything that you have to help you teach your child to read. You have the Children Learning Reading Stage 1 Premium Edition, which has 28 lessons in total, and Children Learning Reading Stage 2 Premium Edition, which has 22 lessons. So in total, there are 50 lessons combined from Stage 1 and 2. With the lessons of each stage, there are lesson printouts, which I highly recommend that you make full use of. The Stage 1 lesson printouts are designed to be printed on a blank business card, while the Stage 2 lesson printouts should be printed out on plain 8.5 by 11 white paper. You also have the Stage 1 lesson stories and Stage 2 lesson stories as well. These are stories with illustrations that are matched to the lessons in the main books. You also have the Stage 2 Rhymes book, which contain many fun-to-read rhymes that also have colorful illustrations with it. To help you teach your child better, you also have the audio clips that show you how to properly sound out each of the alphabet letters. And finally, you have the Children Learning Reading Video Edition, which is what you're watching right now. So there you have it. You have everything that you will ever need to help teach your young child become a fluent reader. All that's required now is a lot of patience and persistence on your part to take a few minutes of your time each day to teach your child to read. So let's get to it. And as always, I would love to hear your feedback and comments on how you made out with our program. And also, I would love to hear how your child is progressing. And so you can email me at jim@childrenlearningreading.com. Again, that's jim@childrenlearningreading.com. I would love to hear how your child is doing. Thanks.